303 Creative versus Atlantis, which is the case of the Christian website designer that refused to do a website for a gay couple.
Allegedly. Remember, all this is alleged, guys, because they really can't find the people that they're talking about, the actors and everybody that they alluded to in this case. I think they're still trying to figure out who they are.
All right, so what are the facts of the case? Let's get to it. The Supreme Court's decision in the LGBTQ plus 303 Creative case. At issue was whether a Colorado web designer had a First Amendment right to reject making wedding websites for queer couples. The court ruled that she does. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 on Friday that Colorado could not force website designer Lori Smith to serve LGBTQ couples seeking wedding websites. The ruling in 303 Creative LLC versus Atlantis has massive implications for LGBTQ plus anti-discrimination protections and other civil rights laws, as legal experts say. Those policies are now vulnerable to reinterpretation by courts. Justice Neil Gorsuch, a Trump appointee, wrote for the court's conservative majority, with Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissenting. The justices ruled that the First Amendment shielded business owners from speaking against their conscience. Smith claimed that it was a violation of her religious beliefs to make wedding websites for same-sex couples. So here's my question. Why are we constantly having to cater to the discriminatory aspects of Christianity? It's never right, like, man, like, here's a Christian who's getting persecuted because they're doing what Jesus asked them to do. These arguments that are being made, right? Well, what about my religious conscience? But I want you to understand, dude, that 50, 60 years ago, these same arguments were being made to refuse service to Negroes.
Yeah.
To minority people.
It's the same shit
in the 70s, 80s to interracial couples. So now the world has to stop. Yeah. The world has to stop because you're having your own personal issues in your mind, your own battles. You know what's good versus wrong. Just being a decent person with what your interpretation of the Bible is. We've had enough of that shit, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like we're tired of holding people's hands and just telling them be decent, man. Be decent. And another point here is, like, there has to be an understanding. If you're going into the public square, nobody's forcing you to start a business but if you're going to do it, there has to be an understanding that there are certain rules that you got to play by.
Right.
And just because you call yourself a Christian or a reverend or a Buddhist or a Muslim, the world doesn't stop for you.
And there's no special treatment.
There's no special treatment for you, man.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Supreme Court even heard this, who was it that said? Well, one of the justices said, like, the fact that we're even hearing this,
I think it was Kagan,
is proof positive that there's an agenda here, man.
Yeah, and these kind of complaints don't have to go before the Supreme Court, dude.
And so here we go to continue with the story. Colorado seeks to force an individual to speak in ways that align with views but defy her conscience. Am I saying that? Conscience?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? About a matter of major significance, wrote Gorsuch. In her dissent, Sotomayor called the majority's interpretation of the First Amendment profoundly wrong. Today, the court, for the first time in its history, grants a business open to the public a constitutional right to refuse to serve members of a protected class, Sotomayor wrote. LGBTQ plus legal experts said the ruling does not grant businesses a widespread license to turn away LGBTQ couples. Instead, it creates a carve-out for business owners creating and selling art to reject specific commissions against their conscience. So, in order to do this justice, I want to play devil's advocate here, because I don't want to feel like I'm straw-manning the arguments of the other side and then knocking that down. Like, I want to be able to compete and argue against the people arguing the best case on the other side, right? So here's the best case, right? They're talking, the carve out here for businesses are creative businesses. People who create something, and that creation is a form of their speech, right? Like the website, the design. So one of the examples, one of the justices, I think it was Amy Coney Barrett, was asking, was, so if a gay couple came up to you and they said, well, you don't have to create anything for me. All I want is that same website that you already designed, and I want everything just copy and paste it over to ours. Would that violate your conscience? The answer there was basically, well, the hypothetical isn't really workable, because these things by nature are specifically designed, catered, and tailored to each individual couple, right? So this person who's religious, right? Who thinks gay people are going to hell and they're an abomination. I'm assuming, like, if you're going this far to go to the Supreme Court, there's a hatred towards gay people, right?
Absolutely.
So
I'm not sugarcoating that anymore, man.
Right. So in this person's mind, now I got to create this website where I got to be looking at these two gay dudes all day. I got to be pretending that it's something good when I know it's not. Right?
Yeah.
And the example that was countered was it's kind of like this. If an artist writes a song, can then the artist say, I don't want that band, or I don't want that political candidate, or I don't want this song played at a Christian church? And the response was, well, yeah, like he can say that. And many times they do. They often say that. So is that a form of discrimination?
Yeah.
When all these bands were forbidding Trump from playing their song, their music, is that a form of discrimination? It's debatable.
Yeah.
And they said, well, the difference here is that, like, what's more analogous is if the state was forcing an artist to perform at, like, a Trump rally.
Okay.
So the state forcing an artist to perform at a Trump rally is like the state forcing this Christian to build a website for a gay couple.
Yeah.
I see the point to where, in that sense, we're already kind of making these decisions, right? We're already making discriminatory decisions based on political ideologies. So what do you think about that?
Well, I was just thinking, like, the example of the gay couple allegedly coming in and asking for the same web design that she did for a different couple, and saying, hey, can we have that same design? Can we have the number one, right? Let's just say design number one. What's the problem? You already created it. You're not having to redo it, with the inspiration of anything LGBT. You're just doing it for this couple that happens to be gay. Now, if they're asking her to put material like, Jesus is gay, or Jesus loves, homos, or whatever, right? Stuff like that, stuff that kind of like antagonizes. Right. Then I think there's something to talk about, dude.
Well, I mean, which are hypotheticals that have to get considered because...
Right, we have to address it.
Because in that, remember the Christian bakery who was being told to... there was a case where gay people were going into these bakeries knowing that they were Christians to antagonize them.
Yeah, to make them feel like I'm violating my faith. In those cases, I think there's something to be considered there. But in this case here, man, like I don't see it. I don't see the need for the Supreme Court to render a decision, and I'm still wanting to see more of the facts of the case. Dude, is this a legitimate gripe, or was this something that the Supreme Court's trying to do for their constituents because another election cycle's coming up and we don't know what's going to change, dude?
Well, the Supreme Court shouldn't have constituents.
Yeah. Well, apparently they do, man.
Their only constituent should be the Constitution, right?
And I can imagine how many churches this morning are doing victory laps right now because of these decisions that went forth, dude. And I mean, you think about it, it's like, dude, where's the love of God in that, dude? That's the primary thing of Christianity. It's supposed to be the love of God for the world.
So my response to that, and a lot of people are saying that the concern is that there wasn't a limiting principle that was outlined by the conservative majority in this court. This logic that's applied here to this case, right? This legal logic can also be interpreted to interracial couples. Like there's no stops.
Right.
There's no
it's a
clarifications.
Yeah.
There's no clarifications to say, well, this is only for this specific case. So it's left open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And the concern is that states with this new ruling can then
show their
ass, man. They can greenlight all their like little
especially those that are real anti-LGBT, man.
Right.
Southern states.
A lot of southern states, right, that worship that southern Republican Jesus.
Gotta get these gays out of our state, man. And you know what, man, at the end of the day, regardless of sexual preference, they're just people, man. I mean, I don't know what the big deal is, dude. If they have a preference, who gives a how does that bother you personally?
But and we've been through this before.
Yeah,
we've talked about this a lot, and I guess it
comes back
bears
to
repeating, man. It's like too many people are out there living as if other people doing their own private thing is going to affect their life somehow.
Yeah.
Or going to affect their spirituality. Or, oh my God, like I can't like put my eyes through this.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't see two gay guys kissing. Like what's that gonna do to me? It sounds stupid, right? But I don't know how else to interpret their actions, man. Like or their words. This is the way they see the world, right?